All right. Well, welcome to a very special
Don't call it
episode,
special. Don't call it special.
a special bonus episode.
This is worse than when you called me after the Cubs lost to the Cardinals or whenever that was. Go ahead.
When was that?
Get it
All
off.
right. Well,
I,
this is a very special bonus episode of the Midwest Sports
Okay.
Show. And my name is Chris Stotts, and we have Gene Steichen via Skype today, this week, this Wednesday. And while the pain and the memories and the wounds are fresh, I thought it was a good time to get Gene's thoughts and go over the game, the wild card game last night from Tuesday.
I didn't even process my thoughts. I should be headed to Milwaukee right now, right?
You should be flying over there.
I didn't. Wait, when did it? Is it all over? Is the window closed? That we've risen and now we're done again for 100 years?
Well, we'll talk about all that, including the game, the season, the future of the Cubs, the future of Madden. Gene, something about these Madden games, these Joe Madden baseball games, a lot of drama happens.
Yeah.
A lot of stories going on. So instead of lumping all this in with a regular episode on Monday, I thought let's go over this because there's a lot of to unpack here.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna start with the lead up to the game, playing the Rockies. Of course, you lost to the Brewers, so that forced you into a wild card game in Chicago. What was the mood? What was the mood like in Chicago? The sports media. What was the mood?
Well, I mean, the Brewers made quite a ruckus in Wrigley Field, and apparently they messed up the visitors' locker room pretty good after they celebrated. And I was like, oh, that's not good. And then I was sad. I was like, oh, how did we not win the division? And then come Tuesday, it was a whole new day. Oh, there's new hope. All we have to do, okay, we beat the Rockies, and then we'll go back to Milwaukee and we'll show them who's who.
Regroup.
Yeah, I think the people in Chicago they were excited. Yes. I mean,
Well, the stadium was rocking. It was
Yeah,
a
it
pretty loud scene.
It was.
John Lester, old reliable, who's won 3 World Series in his careers. His
Right.
career, I guess he only has one career, right? He's pitching.
In a career cup. Okay.
Yeah. So he's pitching, and things don't go very well for
Right,
the Cubs. First inning.
I was worried right out. As soon as they scored, they got the first guy on, and then they got the first two guys on, and they got second and third. I was like, please don't score, because if you guys score, we're done. Because I was worried about our offense giving up one run, just one.
Well, they did score. What they it was like a pop-up sacrifice fly or something like that, right? So they did score, and it was off to the races. It was off to the races. I suppose.
I was happy, relieved that they only scored one run, because I was thinking this could be bad. But when they only scored one run, I go, well, we have 9 innings to score one run. It's possible. I didn't feel good about it, but yeah.
So it kind of became a pitcher's duel between it's Freeman, right, or Freeland? And John Lester, and I didn't get to watching the game until about the second inning or so. But just watching the Chicago Cub players, I texted my friends. I was like, "Wow, the Cubs look tired. These guys don't look fresh. They look like they've had a really long season. They look like they played like 40 games in a row, which is pretty much true, right?"
Yeah. But they were at home the last 2 days, and the Rockies had to fly from Denver to L.A. back to Chicago.
Hey, they got to sleep in their own beds last night, right?
I know. That's what I'm saying.
And the game wasn't at noon.
No.
It wasn't at noon.
I was disappointed.
All right.
After that Cubs in the first inning, I go, this could be tough. We might not ever score. I really thought that. And I was trying to be optimistic.
All right, well, after that first bad inning, John Lester pretty much takes over and is fairly dominant, pretty good. I mean, a couple of guys are getting on base, but no one really threatening at all.
He was hittable, really. He was great. He was better than the other guy after that first inning.
Yeah, Freeland. And then I texted you this old reliable Joe Madden
Right.
pulls
Right.
John Lester after
Yeah.
6 innings, even though he only had like 70 or 80 pitches or something like
Yeah.
that.
Not much at all.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I don't care. I'd rather him, and he can hit. He
can hit. What
I'd rather take my chances with
the pitcher?
And I didn't want to lose him because
exactly.
our bullpen's really shaky lately.
Exactly. So and then the reason why he got pulled is because the pitcher, but the pitcher was first to bat, so who cares, right? I guess that technically it did work out because the next two guys got on base.
Yeah, he and half walk, so that was. But I don't care. I didn't want Lester. It worked out. That part of it didn't screw up the Cubs. That actually, Joe Madden, that one didn't come back to bite him in the ass.
Well, maybe he did. Well, who knows? But because maybe he used some of those relievers early on, and he could use them later on. But
yeah, he could have. Lester could have went 9 innings for sure.
Yep.
He was.
So
right.
It may have been that same inning we're talking about, but at one point, Chris Bryant pops up. And the Colorado outfielder flubs it.
Oh, right. Was it that inning or?
Maybe it was after that or something like that. And I'm just thinking to myself, and they didn't score here, but I'm just thinking to myself, oh my God, like what's going on? How can the Rockies be doing this stuff, letting these Cubs come back over and over again, giving them all these chances? And then I think the official score ruled it a base hit. Like how's that a base hit? They had to go back and change that.
Joe cooking. Who knows? I don't.
Yeah.
That I thought for sure they got to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Scored.
The big bomber is up. The big boy, the big lefty, Rizzo. Anthony Rizzo,
Yeah.
Tony Rizzo comes up.
Yeah.
And proceeds to hit into a double play. All right. There we go.
Right away. That is so typical. Just amazing.
All right. And then later on, and I just have like notes about this. Later on, La Stella, who has a lot of games, he's won. He's has come in clutch a lot. It's like 2 outs or something like that. There's a bunch of guys on base. I think there's 2 guys on base. He grounds out. It looks like I think it was the 8th inning. The Rockies are going off the field. Hold on, everyone. Catcher's interference. Catcher's interference.
Yeah. And the bases are loaded, and 2 outs.
So La Stella basically hit the catcher's mitt and knocked it off.
That's happened to La Stella, I think, 3 times this year. So he's really way back in the box. So he does that. Yeah,
I'm surprised this hasn't happened all the time. How does catchers not get hit by bats like constantly? I don't understand that.
Well,
so La Stella gets on base,
right,
and up comes Jason Hayward.
For God's sake.
Big bomber number 2, I like to call him. Big lefty number 2.
Yeah. You know how many home runs he's got this year?
It's 3?
I think 9. 8 or 9.
Little big bomber, right? Little baby big bomber. Well, he pops up, right? Or did he pop up or did he ground out?
He struck out.
Yeah.
I believe he struck out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
he came up. I think he came up twice with the chance to win the game, and
bases loaded. Not bases loaded. Yeah. Guys in runner position, and he screwed up. Well, we were giving Javi Baez shit last week for failing to show up at that tiebreaker game. But the guy. Well, first of all, Rizzo does get on base, and then Madden replaces him with Gore, right?
Who
right.
should only
runner.
play in that situation. He ended up playing 6 innings, which really
kind of backfired again. So with only one guy in base, do you pull Rizzo?
I don't know. It worked out. Yeah, because they were.
Didn't really work out.
They were desperate.
It didn't really work out because Rizzo was out of the game after that. They probably could have used him later in the game.
That killed them. They had no position players left, none. And Gore had to back twice.
Okay, so we'll get to that. Baez hits a double, ties it up. And what were you feeling right there? Are you feeling good?
Yes, because there was 2 strikes, and I thought, okay, this is going to be Baez. He's going to strike out. And the pitcher actually gave him a good pitch, and he got a double. Yes, and then I was thinking, okay. please just knock him in and let's get it over with. And the next guy can
Like,
get our bias in.
let's go home. Let's go to Milwaukee.
Yeah, then it felt great. Yes.
Well,
pretty good.
They scored the one run. They could not score another run, so it goes to extra innings. And then Cole Hamels comes out for the Cubs. And, of course, you don't know. And extra innings. So I love it, too, when they're cutting to, like, commercials and they're saying, and, folks, it's the NL wild card, and we got extra innings. And then A-Rod, who's calling the game with all these, he's like, awesome. Like, dude, what? No, extra. Okay, A-Rod, extra innings are not awesome. All right, they suck. No one wants to see extra innings for baseball.
I don't know if you follow this, but A-Rod got a ton of grief today because he misidentified a bunch of people. He just said a lot of crazy things.
Yeah, well, he's an American League guy, not a National League guy. Right? Well, he
should do a little research.
He called Ian Desmond Howard at one point. Did you hear that?
Was only one. He called. He had a bunch of them that I was reading on Twitter. Yeah, I was just too. I couldn't even pay attention.
Yeah, and I will say the one thing you got to knock about baseball, because we talk shit about all the other sports, and I think baseball is probably the most pure, perfect sport that we have right now. But this extra innings thing is just the fact that it can go on forever. It's just we got to change it.
And I was please score because I was thinking please score Cubs because Hamels and Kyle Hendricks were supposed to face the Brewers the first two games, and that was our only chance.
Yeah,
and then I kept.
That's not good.
Going to pick Thursday because they used up Cole Hamels, and then they brought in Kyle Hendricks, and they're using him up. But
Darvish, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's extra innings, and all it's just boring extra innings. I mean, Rockies almost score a couple times. Cubs get a couple guys on base at one point.
They just did not once get a clutch hit.
Yeah.
I mean, Rockies did, yes, of course. But in the extra innings, they had so many opportunity. I was like, just Cubs. I mean, you should win at home. You should.
Yeah. Well, you got the bottom of the inning, right, to win, right? And at one point, Wilson Contreras, the Cubs catcher, he's up to bat and he starts cramping up.
Right.
Like this guy's LeBron in San Antonio or something at the AT&T Center.
I know.
And he at first, did you think it was like an ACL or maybe he tore, or I'm sorry, maybe sprained his hip or something at first?
Yeah. No, I didn't. Well, I thought maybe. The thing was, I was thinking, okay, we're going to end up having a pitcher catch.
Yeah, because he was your last catcher, right? And Schwarber.
Yeah, Schwarber was out of the game.
Yeah, Schwarber's your third backup, right? But he already batted, so you needed this guy to bat.
Yeah. We're.
And then they gave him like 10 minutes to stretch.
Like, you're right.
What's going on? Like, Gene, this ain't the Korean spa, okay? Like, let's play ball, okay?
Yeah, they're pretty nice. You're right.
God, I mean, what is up with Joe Madden? Where like the rules just don't apply to him and his teammates and his team. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I love Joe, but he's not getting fired.
Well, Pedro, we'll see about that. Pedro Strop.
Yeah, Pedro Strop
comes up to pitch, and everyone's remarking how good his hammy looks. Well, apparently afterwards, he told a reporter that he was in severe pain, but feigned it that he was fine so that they wouldn't take him out of the game. Told me he wouldn't have been able to be available for the next round. So he would have been out of that Brewers series.
Oh, my God. I don't know.
Not good.
I was thinking that the whole time. I go, please, Cubs score so Cole Hamels can pitch against the Brewers. Yeah, you're right.
Well, let me tell you something, Pedro. When you're in severe pain and you're feigning that you're going good, how about you flip that hat straight? How about you flip that hat to 12 degrees? How about that? 12 o'clock.
Sure.
All right, and Gene, it doesn't. We're still talking about one game here, Gene. There's so much stuff going on in this game. At one point, Gore. What's this guy's first name?
What is it? Frank?
No, that's the running back. That's Frank Gore.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
It's probably like Gore. It's probably Gore. I think he's Haitian. He's very dark. He's a very dark guy.
The one in the 13th inning, that was brutal.
Well, at one point, kind of a bit of a wild pitch It looks like it hits
Right.
Gore and it actually hits the umpire. The umpire is writhing around in pain.
Hey, Gore should have leaned into it. The ball was there. His job, he can't hit. He's only got one major league hit in his career.
Well, he's acting like he didn't get hit, which he didn't, and then he looks over to the dugout, and there's Joe Madden telling him to take his base as if he's the home plate umpire.
He should have leaned into it. Anything, just get on base, fake it. But as soon as I saw the replay, I was like, "Dude, you didn't get hit. The umpire got hit."
Yeah. Meanwhile, the umpire is like, bleeding, and this guy's taking a base illegally. No one told him to take a base, and they waste another challenge.
Wow.
Again, like, what is going on? Like, Joe Madden, what's going on?
That one. But then so they brought it back, and it was 3-2. That it was a full count, and I was like, just don't swing. I was thinking that because he can't even hit the ball, and the ball was low and clearly out of the strike zone, and he swung at it and missed.
Yeah. He's short guy, not that short.
Yeah.
All right. So the Rockies did score top of the 13th, right? And then Cubs put a valiant effort by striking out in a row, 3 times in a row. In the bottom of the 13th, they lose, and that's it. Season done.
That was sad.
So, Gene, what was your immediate reaction? Like, what?
I was very sad, and then I'm thinking, how's it possible? I thought this has got to be a first in Major League Baseball history that 2 teams celebrate on your home field 2 nights in a row. How's that? Could that ever be possible?
I'm sure it is. Maybe.
No. How? No.
I guess in the modern era, in the dead ball era, I don't know. Maybe it's possible. Well, let me ask you this, Gene. How did this team win 94 games? That's the real mystery.
95. I don't know. The Brewers are better. Yes,
By
they
far.
are.
I think it was this Cubs mystique. They would come into the field. I'm sorry, they would come into the away games, and I think people were just afraid of them, as if these guys were like a super team or something like that.
They didn't score. They just didn't have clutch hitting. I mean, they did score runs in certain games that score a bunch, but they had 40 games where they scored 1 run or 0.
Two must-win games practically, and they scored 2 runs
at home.
And
the Rockies, at one point in extra innings, the guy on the mound for the Rockies, his ERA was almost 7. He was relieved. And the Cubs couldn't score off him.
Was that thin air in Colorado? But and then you lose 3 of the last 4 games of the year. Yeah, not good. Put that in perspective.
Yeah, it's tough.
Not good.
Okay.
So I mean, just doesn't it not? Well, listen. Now you know how everyone else feels.
I know
about baseball. You watch all these games for the whole goddamn year.
I'm
and it's just flushed down the toilet.
Yeah. I want the Brewers. That would be great for the city.
All right, at least you can ride on the coattails of the Brewers here. All right, so a couple of choice quotes. John Lester. Sometimes you need to get your dick knocked in the dirt to appreciate it. Maybe we needed that. Yes. Sometimes you need your dick knocked in the dirt. I couldn't have said it better than that.
Well, I thought that's what happened last year when they lost to the Dodgers. Dodgers steamrolled them.
Yeah. Hey, John, maybe you guys should get kicked in the dick early on in the season in May. How about that? Not in October. All right. All right. And then, Gene, like clockwork, the very next day, stories about Joe Madden's future starts popping up. Yeah. He's got 1 more year left. How much is he getting paid? Like $5 million? Or is it more than that? $6
million. Yeah,
that's
got
a lot.
1 year. They're gonna. Theo had a press conference today, so I read some.
He gave him a vote of confidence.
It was a rough day for the Cubs. They get knocked out, and then they're starting shortstop these last few years.
All right.
Madison got suspended.
All right. Well, we'll get to that too. Too. But regarding Madden's future, a source told MLB.com's John Paul Morassi on Wednesday that it's unlikely the Cubs will extend Madden's contract, which runs through next season. That's for 2 reasons. Diminished postseason success the last 2 years, which is the NL championship and the wild card. I mean, that's not bad. And Madden's salary being higher than the market rate for managers in the game today. I mean, look at all these young managers being successful, like Craig Counsell. Right. What are you getting what you pay for, right? Madden's contract is not expected to be extended beyond 2019-19, and according to Morossi, Madden's camp has not requested an extension recently either. So it sounds like Joe Madden's trying to get out of Dodge.
That's probably a bad time to ask for an extension.
And can we, I don't know, can we just stop the silly dance? Like, Joe Madden will not be on this team next year. He doesn't want to be in Chicago. He's tired of the winters.
He loves it.
In the summer, not in the winter. And then we're hearing he might go to the Angels, which
he's going to be 64 next year.
Exactly. That's why he's going to retire to SoCal, where you don't need a ice scraper in November to go to 7-Eleven to get a new cup of coffee.
He would get a job immediately.
Oh yeah.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. Everyone's saying the Angels because Sosha just retired.
No.
And then he
one guy, our hitting coach, I think he's one and done.
Yeah, the strategy didn't really work that well.
Chili Davis.
Yeah, Chili Davis. That's your hitting coach. Is Chili Davis?
Yeah, remember Boston got rid of him.
That guy struck out. That guy struck out all the time when he was a player, right?
Yeah.
Why do you want that? What did that guy do? That guy's not Ted Williams, for God's sakes.
He was Boston's hitting coach, and they got rid of him after last year, and they totally turned it
Yeah,
off.
and they got two guys batting 300 this year, for God's sakes.
I'm sure he escaped.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, and then Gene, I don't know if any news has broken recently, but basically, the cherry on the shit Sunday, known as the Chicago Cubs, got placed on there by the commissioner's office when it was revealed that Addison Russell was suspended 40 games starting next year for kicking the shit out of his girlfriend or his wife.
Hey, I read a lot of stuff about it today, and the fans, I would say the majority, they don't want him anywhere near the team anymore. But then I'm thinking, well, he is really good, and maybe he's sorry and he won't do it anymore. Maybe
because these guys stop after they get caught. They stop. They're very responsible young men, and they would never risk their future earnings potential over getting mad at their girlfriend. All right. So Gene, there we go. The Chicago Cubs 2018.
Yeah, it's the crap. And I never, when this season started, I really felt, I didn't feel this way last year, but this year I felt this is a World Series year. I really did. And boy, it fell apart. And even when people go, do you realize they had a 5-game lead over Milwaukee in September? That's a lot to blow. And yeah, maybe it's the Brewers' year. Maybe it is. Good for you. But it's depressing.
The Brewers, I think, are still like plus 700 or something like that to win the World Series. So it might be worth putting a bet.
Yeah, it was a great matchup, Brewers and Dodgers, because Dodgers are playing really well right now too.
Yeah, well, the Brewers play the Rockies. I was gonna say, like, I would rather almost prefer the Cubs because the Cubs are kind of a known quantity. I haven't really watched the Rockies too much, recently, but we did win both series against them this year.
Yeah. But I don't know. About these, I don't know. I'm sad about the Cubs. I'm going to opening day. It's in Texas, and it's March 28th, so I'll just count down the days.
Yeah. Well, Gene,
you go through a whole season, and you really, I watched every game, and then suddenly it's over. Bam,
yeah.
It's just over.
Well, at least you can get on with your life, right? It must be nice.
Wow, every night I was watching baseball. So
yeah, you realize I was wasting 3 hours of my night every single night for 162 days.
But so now it'll be hard. I'll watch because I would like to see. I don't want Colorado at all anywhere near. I would like to see the Brewers do something. That'd be pretty cool from Milwaukee.
Yeah, it should be fun. All right. Well, Gene, thanks for doing this. You've been a good sport, and thank you for letting us watch this Cubs humiliating defeat through the eye of a fan. So we do appreciate it.
I'm glad the game got over really late because I could just.
Yeah, I went to bed around 11. I was like, screw this.
That game. Wow, if you were in Chicago, and how about being in the stadium and you waited the whole night and that happened?
And you can't drink beer? Yeah, for 3 hours. Can't drink beer?
Yeah.
After the 7th inning? Yep. All right. Okay. So for Gene Steichen, my name is Chris Stotts. This has been a special.
everyone else, I'm trying to be a good fan. It's just similar to when Wisconsin beat Iowa a couple weeks ago. Congratulations.
All right, Gene, you're very gracious, even in defeat. So, but Gene, just remember, it's not you. You would have won if you actually were playing out there. You would have actually tried and wouldn't have embarrassed
Well,
the city.
I'm a good fan. When I was at the games, I went to a bunch of games. I tried to be a good fan.
And
So.
and Gene, you don't have to spend any more money on this team. So just think about that. It's another bonus.
All right.
This year, at least. So, all right, let's wrap this up. All right, so for Gene Steichen, my name is Chris Stotts. Thanks for watching the Midwest Sports Show. See you guys on Monday next week. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you for this. Okay, buddy.
All right, hold on, let me end it.